It is those who endure and witness the darkest things who are capable of the greatest amount of love and empathy.
Tell us who Savvy is in this season of life.
In this season of life, I am healing. Right now, it is about figuring out who I want to be in the world compared to what I was. Before I got sick a few years ago, work was it was work and family, but I worked 60, 80 hours a week, and that was my identity. It was a pillar of who I was. And now I get to choose what I want to do. And I found myself really lost for a while, until I found V-Friends, actually.
What drew you to just Jackal?
My first character, Maxie, was the kind warrior, just because of my life experiences. And I was actually on the V-Friends website, and I was going through all the different characters. And when I realized that each one had a tagline, I literally started at Accountable Aunt and started going down and reading all the taglines for all the characters. And I got to J, and I got to Just Jackal. And the tagline for Just Jackal is forgive the guilty, protect the innocent. And I still get chills to this day every single time I say it. It's that feeling in your soul where something connects to you so deeply for so many reasons. As much as I believe in living a kind warrior life, in understanding that kindness is not a weakness, for me, it's a core value. That tagline for the Just Jackal character is how I want to live. To lead with empathy in a situation where you're being hurt is very difficult. Realizing that forgiveness was not about accepting someone into your life, it was about understanding that in the same way we are in our own journeys of self-discovery that have been affected by the life we've lived, so were theirs. And it's understanding that forgiveness doesn't mean I don't want you to eat. It just means I don't have to have you eat at my table. That's a lesson I had to learn. And then protecting the innocent. I didn't necessarily have that for a lot of my life, especially when I was youngest and when I was the most innocent. Protecting those who cannot protect themselves. It's a pillar of who I want to be. I want to teach my children to be the kind of people who can forgive so they don't create bitterness and anger within themselves, but also who know how to protect those who need protecting.
Do you feel like forgiveness is important for inner peace?
Absolutely, because we can't be at peace if we're in anger. For a lot of people, when it comes to forgiveness, if I forgive somebody, that makes it okay. And it doesn't. That's not how it works. But your soul cannot truly be restful when you're in anger.
How do you balance standing up for others without becoming judgmental?
I don't. I think being judgmental and judging others is one of the hardest things to not do in the human existence. Because not only are we used to being judged, but we're used to this idea that you have to assess other people in order to know where you stand in a room. And my first instinct is the protect, not the forgive, or the empathy part. And so we get our bristles up and we kind of get like a little aggressive and I get judgmental. And then I have to stop and step back. So the first step in that process is, one, recognizing when you're becoming overly judgmental, because there is a difference between assessing a situation to understand and looking at the situation to just make judgments on it without knowledge. It's recognizing, you know what, I am being overly judgmental here. I am jumping to conclusions without information. I don't know all the facts. I don't know all the situations. So I need to step back and ask myself, first question is, why am I wondering all this? Why am I making these judgments? What's the end game? What do I want to see as an outcome to these statements that I'm making in my own head or whatever? Two is I ask myself, am I saying something that I would not tell that person directly? We also have to ask ourselves, are the people who it is affecting capable of taking care of themselves? And if so, have enough belief in them to do that. So going back to like as far as the judgment, I try and have as open and honest conversations as possible whenever possible. I guess the first question should actually be, is this a situation that I personally, and that's not to say you can't have your own personal feelings inside your own head, because your head is your own space. You get to do whatever you want in there. I shouldn't be having discussions with Anne about this situation because it doesn't involve me. Now, that's not to say you can't, be like, I'm sorry this has happened, or reach out and say, hey, are you okay? Instinctually and honestly, if we hold ourselves accountable, we absolutely know in every instance when we're doing the wrong thing. Choosing to allow your circumstances to define who you are, that is as much of a choice as looking at what you're going to eat the next day. There's a parable. There is a snake that's going through an old barn, and it slithers past a rusty saw blade, and the saw blade nicks its skin. And the snake turns around to attack the saw blade. And when it does that, it gets cut again. So the snake begins to wind itself around the saw blade. And the tighter it winds itself, the more it gets cut. And at some point, it eventually died because it just couldn't let go of the one hurt. If we choose to lash out at our hurts, if we choose to judge others harshly without any empathy or kindness or love, then at the end of the day, we end up hurting ourselves because we create those cuts inside of ourselves.
Who do you think is Just Jackal's sidekick?
Kind warrior, 100%. Little company by the name of Gem Mint Creations makes these amazing bracelets. Just kind. I think they go really well together in that phrase, but also in order to forgive the guilty, we have to find kindness and the ability to show it. But to protect the innocent, you have to be willing to be that warrior that stands up.
What do you think Just Jackal would whisper in somebody's ear who's on the verge of giving up?
You're not alone. Sometimes we don't need to know that someone loves us or that we're going to be okay. There are moments when everything is hard and that darkness is overwhelming and it's hard to breathe, where you just want to know that you're not alone.
Is there something else you want to send everybody off with? A saying you have, a quote you like, or just something that you feel like people need to hear more of?
Two things. One, in the thing that I tell everyone, it's in all my bios because I think it's the most important thing, is that in any situation or circumstance, remember there is no darkness that light cannot overcome. And if you cannot find the light, you need to be it. I think people will be extraordinarily surprised at how much effect doing good can have on their situation, being the good that they hope for. I think the second thing is our definition of success has become twisted as a society. Success to each individual person is not the same thing, but kindness is success. Love is success. Purpose, reason, good choices in a moment are success. I think most of all, above all else, it is that there is no darkness that light cannot overcome. And if you cannot see the light, be the light. I know that I'm not supposed to talk about the sports ball on the And Bag podcast, but I love the Rams. I hate the Jets. Don't edit this out.